Hello and welcome to your NEWSMAX Daily for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, Taco Tuesday, 11/12/24, the 317th day of the year, with 49 days to go. 43 until Christmas, and it's a Tuesday that feels like a Monday for millions of people, right, who had the Veterans Day holiday off from work or school. Before I get to the Republicans likely taking control of the House, along with the Senate and the White House, and all of the people now that found out they're getting new jobs, remember the gang violence and all the political unrest happening in Haiti before coverage of the presidential election just completely took over the news cycle? You remember all that mayhem that was going on there? Overnight, U.S. Airlines canceled all flights to Haiti due to a Spirit Airlines flight from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, landing in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, being hit with gunfire from gangs. Haiti also swore in its new prime minister yesterday, who promised to restore peace in the country. President Biden, for his final time yesterday, participated in the annual laying of the wreath ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery, where he again called for unity, urging Americans to come together.
This is the moment. This is the moment to come together as a nation, to keep faith in each other. The world is dependent on each of you and all of us, all of you, to keep honoring the women and the men and the families who have borne the battle, to keep protecting everything they fought for, to keep striving to heal our nation's wounds, to keep perfecting our union. We're the only nation in the world built on an idea. Every other nation is based on things like geography, ethnicity, religion. But we're the only nation, the only in the world, built on an idea. And that idea is we're all created equal, deserve to be created equal throughout our lives. We haven't lived up to it every time, but we've never walked away from it. Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. And today, standing together to honor those Americans who have dared all, risked all, and given all to our nation, we must say clearly, we never will give up. God bless our veterans and their families. And may God protect our troops today and always. God love you. Thank you so much.
He also announced expanded cancer coverage for veterans under the PACT Act, which is for service members exposed to toxins. Today, President Biden is meeting with Isaac Herzog, the president of Israel, at the White House, and then having lunch with Vice President Harris, who's getting back into her normal routine since losing the election. Monday was an incredibly busy day for President-elect Donald Trump, and there is no reason to think today is not going to be another incredibly busy and historic day. I mentioned a lot of people getting new jobs. I'll run down some of the appointments that were made yesterday, and then we'll get into the shows. Trump has picked South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, once considered a possible running mate, to serve as the Homeland Security Secretary. She will replace the embattled Alejandro Mayorkas, of course. Trump also named New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who was also a strong VP consideration as ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley's former position, and New York Congressman Lee Zeldin to lead the Environmental Protection Agency, and is expected to name Florida Senator Marco Rubio, a.k.a. Little Marco, to a big position, Secretary of State. Rubio is currently vice chair of the Intelligence Committee and on the Committee of Foreign Relations. Extremely well-versed in foreign relations. A fantastic pick. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will then have to appoint a new senator for Florida to replace Rubio. As a Floridian, I'm very curious of who that will be. All of this in less than a week for President-elect Donald Trump. Rob Finnerty spoke about the appointments, the election, and the media with Bill O'Reilly.
How much better prepared, Bill, do you think Donald Trump is today to take office versus 2016?
Light years. There's no comparison. I mean, you remember Donald Trump, when he won, he was surprised. If you read Confronting the Presidents, Trump was shocked that he won. And Hillary Clinton had rented the Javits Center in Manhattan at millions of dollars. because they were so confident the Democrats they would win. And when Trump walked in there, as exactly the same thing's happening right now, everybody was asking him for a job. Everybody was asking him, yeah, give me, can I get this? Can I get that? So Trump made mistakes, like Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. He was a senator from Alabama who endorsed Trump. He was the first one, and Trump gave him AG, and Sessions couldn't handle it. And then he hires Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State. Rex Tillerson ran Enron, or is Exxon, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And had no idea what he was doing. This time around, Trump knows what the jobs entail, and I believe will staff at a much more astute level.
Today, Donald Trump announced, so I guess the Department of Energy was founded in 1979. Jimmy Carter founded it. Department of Education, check that. We were first in the world in education, math, science, reading. Now we are 24th in the world. Donald Trump said today that he will close down the Department of Education and give that money back to the states. If you're just hearing the news, I want to get your take on that. Is that the right move? And can we expect more of this from Donald Trump?
Excellent move. Fabulous. I'm a former high school teacher. All education is local. And the feds can't dictate what happens in Bangor, Maine, or Key West, Florida, or San Diego, California. So put the money back into the states. Therefore, the people can hold the local politicians accountable for it. So this district does well, this district doesn't, we'll boot the school board out of this district. That's the way to do it. So Trump is correct in that decision as far as I'm concerned.
Is there any way that what happened last Tuesday, Bill, in your opinion, ends up being the best thing that ever happened to Democrats? Like, do they figure this out somehow over the next 4 years and storm back in 2028 with a shiny new candidate to run?
There's no leader in the Democratic Party. I think Barack Obama took it on the chin, and he was the leader this time around. So I think he's going to recede unless Michelle, for some reason, wants to run for president. But if that doesn't happen, I don't think we're going to hear a lot from the Obamas. So then who's the leader of the Democratic Party? There isn't any. So you got the Bernie Sanders faction, which is the far left socialists. They dominated Biden-Harris. They won it. Then you got a moderate Democrat faction. I would say Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, is pretty much the most high visible person there. But do they have the clout to beat the progressives who have all the money, the Soros money? No, they don't. So I think that division in the Democratic Party, I don't see it improving anytime soon.
I want to talk to you about confronting the presidents. I enjoyed the book, Bill, and you've talked about Joe Biden as one of the worst presidents in American history. The last time we talked was before the election. And now, no matter what, part of Joe Biden's legacy will forever be handing the keys to the White House back to Donald Trump. So where does Joe Biden stack up historically now?
Second worst president ever. And the reason is that most of our poor presidents, Jimmy Carter, Herbert Hoover, Franklin Pierce, Millard Fillmore, all of those people, all right? James Buchanan was the worst. He was the guy that led into the Civil War, did absolutely nothing to tamp it down. Joe Biden created the problems. Most of the poor presidents inherited the problems. Like Herbert Hoover inherited the Great Depression. He didn't cause it, but he couldn't solve it. And some people say he made it worse, okay? But Biden created the open border. It was pretty much under control until he walked in. He created massive inflation with all of these regulations on the fossil fuel industries and this insane government spending, which was unnecessary. All right. So when you create the problems and they get out of control and then the people vote you out, you know, you're the second worst.
Yeah.
And Buchanan will never be top because he was a rank coward and 1 million people died because of the Civil War. So Biden can't top him, but Biden is number 2.
Bill O'Reilly in his new book, Confronting the Presidents, on Finnerty last night, and this is what he had to say about the evolving media landscape.
You were in, they call it the dominant media, the legacy media, whatever you want to call it. You were a part of it for decades. How much do you think independent media, podcasts, places like NEWSMAX, your show, How big a role did independent media play in getting Donald Trump elected?
You know, I didn't try to get Donald Trump elected, so I'm not in that zone.
But you know what I'm saying, Bill. Just like an alternative
I know what
to
you're saying,
CBS, ABC, NBC.
But I want to be very clear to Newsmax viewers that my job is much more repertorial now than it used to be on the O'Reilly factor. So because the media, the corporate media, refuses to report the facts, and it flat out does, all right, I have to, because there wouldn't be anybody else doing it. And therefore, my business, I have 3 corporations, has rocketed all over the world because people don't trust the corporate media because they're rooting for one side or the other. Now, the election of Donald Trump destroys the liberal side of that equation, absolutely wipes them out, because their viewership was expecting Harris to win. And the reporting on Donald Trump was so dishonest at such a high level that unless you're a complete loon, you know that. So why would you want to consume more of that? The answer is you wouldn't. Where do you go? You go to social media, you go to Newsmax, you go to News Nation, you go to other places that aren't run by major corporations, because the major corporations are telling the journalists, pundits, what to do. They're telling them what to do.
Right.
And Americans, they don't want that. It's a waste of their time.
You think about some of the other options that people have, yourself included. You know, maybe they were around in 2020. They're not what they are today. And then 2016, they weren't around at all. Think about podcasts. You know, Tucker, Megyn Kelly, Charlie Kirk. There is even Joe Rogan endorsing Donald Trump.
Rob Finnerty is the host of Finnerty, 8 p.m. Eastern on Newsmax. And getting back to the cabinet appointments President-elect Trump made yesterday, Bianca De La Garza spoke about it with retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt on Newsline.
All right, we'll talk about some of the picks here. Obviously, Elise Stefanik, we know as the ambassador to the United Nations, she may also tackle UNRWA, which has, had issues where it's the money going in, maybe helping, literally funding terrorists. You talk about Brian Hook, putting maximum pressure on Iran, that this administration clearly not only didn't, but dating back to Obama, has enriched them.
Yeah, it's a tangled foreign policy mess. Elise Stefanik is going to step into the role of ambassador. She's going to thrive in this environment. I am just so optimistic about what lays in front of her in terms of not just dealing with UNRWA, dealing with Iran and China and all of these issues, but also internally at the UN, at the WHO, getting to the bottom of COVID issues. Trying to push back on any of this nonsense about entering into a treaty that yields United States sovereignty. She's going to excel in this role greatly. I'm so excited that she's going to do that.
All right, Stephen Miller is in. Tom Homan is in. Tom may be overseeing, believed, all the deportations. And, we're talking about people from all over the world, including people that even Ray admits Hezbollah has capabilities. So this is a priority, as it should be, if you want to have national security and people not have known terrorists. So tell us a little bit about what you think Homan adds. And Fred Fleitz, thank you for joining us as well. I'll let you pick it up after. But Blaine, what do you think of this new Tom Homan and really what he's going to be able to do now?
Tom's a tough guy. He is a very clear-eyed, mission-focused leader, and he's going to excel at this. This is the common denominator of the now assembling Trump team. Alignment of purpose, alignment of vision under President Trump's leadership. It's going to be a very different look this time around. And they know where they're going to go. Now, Homan is going to be leading a multi-layered whole-of-government approach. He can't do it by himself. He's going to need all elements of government to achieve this, whether it's carrots or sticks on these deportations.
Yeah.
And again, just perfect choice.
former CIA analyst and former NSC chief of staff in the Trump administration, Fred Fleitz. Fred, I know you probably have a lot of thoughts on the deportation. I want to play just a little bit of Homan talking to 60 Minutes about, the realities of what, open borders has caused and what now needs to happen, and that Americans, we know, support this as well, according to polling.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is it worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
I love Tom Homan. I think he's a great pick, Fred. No nonsense. But what he has seen at the border, and I've heard him speak and met him when he talks about the children being trafficked, his heart is in such a good place for not just this country, but also just after what he's seen, the blood on the hands of these cartels. He knows what he's doing, and he's going to do it.
Well, I saw a tweet a little while ago by some Democrat who was very unhappy that Trump won. And she said, maybe you thought Trump wasn't serious about moving on the border. Well, with Homan, I see that he is. I think that's obviously clear. And I'd also note that it's significant that Trump is naming a real border czar, not a pretend border czar, which Kamala Harris, a position she had, did nothing with. And I like the fact that we're doing this before the Homeland Security Secretary is named. I'm sure that's going to be a great person. I have some candidates in mind. This just shows that Trump is going to put a lot of energy and muscle on this issue. It's very serious to him. It's going to be a whole of government attempt, and it's not an accident. This was announced so early in the transition.
That's foreign policy analyst Fred Fleitz on Newsline with Bianca De La Garza, and he said that was before the announcement of Homeland Security Secretary, which we now know will be South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. And on NEWSMAX.com, Newsmax is projecting the GOP clinching control of the House with 218 seats. This is Greg Kelly.
Well, look at this. More winning. More winning. MAGA wins again. The House of Representatives, this is anticipated, but it wasn't a done deal. House of Representatives will remain in Republican hands. How about that? So President Trump will have the House of Representatives, the United States Senate, and, of course, the White House. This is great. This is fantastic. And I personally have not fully really processed the scope and scale and the magnificence of the achievement of last week and beyond, what it means. It means all great things, but still, I'm savoring it. I'm in awe of it. And when you go into the little numbers, the little exit polls and all that stuff, take a look at this. This is an interesting way to look at it. We have about 3,100 counties in America. Donald Trump won 2,600 of them, and Kamala Harris only won 525. Granted, a lot of populous counties in her count, but it shows you, doesn't it? I think it's awesome. And again, all 7 swing states. He nailed it. All 7. Remember how we were on pins and needles for such a long time? What's going to happen here? Let's see here. Support from young black men doubled from 2020. Black men under the age of 45 voted for Trump, doubled. Women ages 18 through 29. He won that group? 61%? He made significant gains with young voters nationally. Hispanic support, higher than anybody in the GOP since 1976 at the presidential level. One Latino men, 54% of them. Also, in Democrat strongholds like Brooklyn, New Jersey, and Chicago, he didn't win those, but he made inroads enough to make Democrats very, very nervous about the trend. And in California, Trump performed better than any Republican in 2 decades. All this after they put him through all that, right? All of them downtown, all that stuff. I am so proud of everybody, quite frankly, for seeing right through this. They thought, I really think they thought that once they threw the cuffs on him, that MAGA would get nervous and run for the hills, or he would just be overwhelmed. They were talking to the wrong group, right? They don't know us, and they don't know him. They don't know him. We know the country. We know how insane it is right now. And beyond MAGA, regular people, Democrats, a lot of folks, unless you're crazy woke left, none of this stuff is good. And it's about time we start reeling in the federal government. Everybody seems to know that the FBI has gotten totally out of hand, right? The deep state is real. The Central Intelligence Agency, the open plotting and scheming against a democratically elected president in 2016, trying to sabotage his presidency. Those days are over.
Greg Kelly, funny enough, is the host of Greg Kelly Reports, 9 o'clock Eastern on Newsmax. That's right after Finnerty with Rob Finnerty at 8. Mark Cuban is back in the headlines today. The billionaire anti-Trumper who hitched his wagon to Kamala Harris is being widely criticized once again, but this time it is not for something he said, but for something that he did. Cuban has deleted a bunch of his pro-Harris posts from his X account. And in self-defense, he claims that he always deletes old tweets, including after the 2020 election, and says he did the same thing after the 2016 election. Yeah, in 2016, he deleted them because he was wrong about Trump then. Then he deleted them after 2020, probably when the price of gas went over $4 a gallon and Biden policies started going into effect or taking effect. And he deleted them again now because Trump won again. You know, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency has blown up with the stock markets since last Tuesday, right? Since Trump's reelection. I've mentioned it almost every day. You know who owns a large amount of Bitcoin? That's right, Mark Cuban. And I bet he's not complaining about that, right? The stock markets and Bitcoin were taking a bit of a breather this morning, all just slightly lower. Some investors perhaps beginning to take some profits from the past week's run-up. Markets were a little bit lower yesterday morning as well and then ended higher once again. Home Depot reported better than expected earnings this morning and raised its forward guidance, but it did say consumers are being cautious about their spending. If you own shares of Home Depot, it was up almost $2.50 in pre-market this morning. Be sure to keep an eye on all of the latest political developments and breaking news on Newsmax N2, and don't forget about NEWSMAX.com. Also, make sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus for the most complete lineup of all your favorite shows, hosts, and great expert analysis, NewsMaxPlus.com. For Rob Schmidt tonight, Greg Kelly Reports, Carl Higbie, Bianca De La Garza, Wake Up America, National Report, and more. I'm Tony Marino. This is the NEWSMAX Daily. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Yes, the Miami Dolphins did win last night. Thank you. And keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the NEWSMAX app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Hey, it's Jerry Callahan from The Callahan Show. You can listen to us every day. We react to the latest news, politics, sports, and all the madness in the world. I'll give you my opinion with a little edge, a little attitude. I'm an unapologetic right-winger, trapped behind enemy lines in deep blue Boston, so I'm used to taking on the mainstream media mob. You can hear us anywhere you get your podcast, or you can listen every day at newsmax.com/listen.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real.